The Sattler Files.
Welcome back to the Sattler Files, and this is Mentoring Matters with Gary Jackson. Welcome.
Thanks, Despina. Yourself?
Yes, good. And as mentors, people, you tend to want a mentor around when you're going to do something new and probably a little bit scary. So maybe starting a new business is probably a very good time to have a mentor.
Absolutely. Those companies that start off doing the whole process properly tend to prosper. And what I'd like to do today is just cover some of the things that are quite important when you're looking at starting a business. So, for example, you've just decided that you want to become a naturopath, for example, and you've gone and spent $20,000, $30,000 at university learning how to be a naturopath, and now you think, oh, well, okay, I'll set up at home.
Just hang up a shingle and print some business cards, and there I go. But it's not always as easy as that.
No, and then they start to wonder why the business isn't coming to them. So there's a couple of things that I recommend that my clients do. The first is to go to the Department of Planning and Infrastructure and get their latest demographic information on population growth in various suburbs. And what you're looking for is a density that's growing quite rapidly. And I'm going to pick Baldivis today as the examples.
Well, it's somewhere close to home.
Yeah, and it's also the one I've done anyway.
Yeah, true.
So if you go to places like the local... it's called localstats.com.au. They have there the current stats from the 2011 census. So if we're looking at Baldivis, and population of Baldivis has grown dramatically. In 2011, it was about 16,000 people, and the average age was 29.
Really?
Yeah,
that's so very young.
Very young. Then you start looking at language, and 90.5% of the population of Baldivis all speak English.
That would help.
Yeah, very useful. But what it's telling us is that it's a demographic that's young, potentially newly married with young kids. The cost of their living is going to be quite high. And interestingly, just under 16% of homes are fully owned. In other words, there's no mortgage. 63% are under mortgage. And the killer here is 20% are rented.
It's only 20%.
Only 20%. So it's not a huge amount compared to other areas.
Well, so it's not a really transportable market, is it? It's a pretty static market that's going to stay.
Exactly. And then when you start looking at income levels, and as I say, all this information is available through the various government organisations, but the average income for Baldivis back in 2011 was $837 per person. Now, the average household income is just under $2,000. So what that tells you is you've got young, two-income families, potentially with children, and you can get the children information through the local shire anyway. So you then got to look, what is the disposable income? So you start looking at rents versus ownership. In Baldivis, we've got 63% ownership, and the average mortgage is $2,400 a month.
Right.
So there's not a lot of money left over for other things. And if you're looking,
well, but then you're talking about two-income families.
Yeah, so you're looking at about $2,000 a week. So a quarter of your income's gone in your mortgage.
Now I'm confused. Yeah. Is the mortgage $2,000 a week or $2,000 a month?
Mortgage is $2,000 a month.
Right.
Yeah. So you're looking at roughly a quarter of your income is going in the mortgage. Then you've got all of the other add-ons. So when it actually boils down to it, there's not necessarily a lot of disposable income in that area to be starting a business where it's a disposable income business.
Well, it's very discretionary too.
It is. And then you start looking at what the occupations are. So in Baldivis, it's predominantly trades and building type stuff. So is that population density going to want your service? Now, if you're a plumber or an electrician, then obviously yes. But if you're a naturopath, then you've got to really look carefully at that location. If you were to do the same exercise in, say, the Fremantle area,
I was just going to say,
whole different.
Well, as they used to call Fremantle, it was Mungbean territory.
Yeah.
So I would say that alternative medicine in Fremantle's got a pretty good chance of surviving.
Absolutely. So it's a much better proposition than in Baldivis. But what it means is if you're setting up a business, you're going to have to travel to get to your population. The other things that you can do, and these are quite interesting exercises to do, Google have this thing called AdWords Planner. And the advantage of that is it will actually show you what people are looking for in terms of services. So in Baldivis, I did a search for naturopaths in Baldivis. Interestingly, there's only an average of 20 searches per month for Baldivis. But if I did naturopath Perth, there's 590. If you do Fremantle, it's 70. So when you start looking at particular topics, so for example, we know that quitting smoking is quite a big thing and using hypnotherapy to quit smoking. Unfortunately, there's only about 200 searches a month in Perth. There's nothing in any other town. So using those tools like Google to help you look at what people are searching for is going to tell you whether your business is going to fit into that market. Another one that I've got here, which I'll just show Desprine because Desprine can see the picture.
I can see the picture, yes.
City of Rockingham and all the other municipalities have a demographic and urban development snapshot which gives you a projection from 2011 to 2036 in relation to population growth, income growth and all that kind of thing. And if you look at Baldivis as an example, in 2011 to 2016, the population has more than doubled, but the demographic has not. Now, if you're looking at, say, opening up a dog grooming business, for example, then Baldivis and the Rockingham area would be a really, really good place to be looking because most of the houses that are there have at least one animal. So now we're starting to look at, well, okay, these populations have access to some disposable income. They do have animals, they have pets.
Well, they can afford to feed the pets, so they must have some extra money.
So if you're looking at a vet or a dog groomer or something like that, then there's a pretty good chance that you could make a go of it. And doing it properly, you know that the population can support your services. There's also things that we do to look at what people will pay for specific services. And if you look at Baldivis...
Obviously, some areas will pay more than other areas.
Absolutely. So, for example, Baldivis currently, from the medical perspective, people are looking at bulk billing medical practices. They're looking at dentists that have got association with Medibank and HBF and so on, so that the out-of-pocket expenses are reduced. Whereas places like Claremont, Cottesloe, Fremantle, although the same thing exists, they don't care.
Yeah.
They'll just spend it.
Yeah.
So when you start looking at where you're going to place your business, the things that you've got to look at is, does the average person in the street actually have the disposable funds to pay you? And secondly, do they actually want your services? And that's where most companies or businesses fail. They don't actually look at whether the people actually want your service. They think, I'm a great plumber, or I'm a great naturopath, or I'm a great hypnotherapist. But the demographic of that region doesn't want it. So it's really important to make sure that in setting up your business, you make sure that you go into the right location. The next thing you've got to do, and this is where I spend a lot of time with my clients, is, well, okay, so I've set up business. Now, how do I actually get people in the door? And a lot of people put up a website or they'll use Facebook and they'll think, oh, okay, well, I've got my Facebook page, I've got my website, people will come in the door. It's not that easy. As we spoke about some time ago, we need to do a lot of work in terms of the SEO on your websites to get it functioning. But there are things that you can do very, very simply to go and get your name out and about. And one of the simplest things is pretty much all areas have small shopping centres. And they're more than happy to have you stand out in the middle of the shopping centre with your little booth. It's going to cost you probably $200 a day to hand out your information to people passing. And if you're going to do that, pick the days that are busy. So Saturdays and Thursdays are always busy. And actually give someone your information. They've seen you, they know you exist, and now they've got a way of contacting you.
It almost seems quite old-fashioned, doesn't it?
Very old-fashioned.
In this day of the internet and high-speed searches and Google and everything else, to actually physically man a booth, handing out printed pieces of paper, is going back to the cave. It's
going back to what works. And we know that the internet has an important component to play in marketing, but it's part of the picture. It's probably critical these days that you have a website because people will find your information at the booth.
And then they will then go to your internet site.
Exactly.
So basically what you're doing is you're redirecting traffic to your internet site, to your website, to your source of information.
And these days things like Facebook are very important because it's from social media like Facebook that people get an idea about you. They find out your reputation. They look for comments about you.
And they also judge you on your website. If you've got a really schmicky website, they go, this looks like a successful business. Whereas a cheap website is not going to have the same effect.
Correct. So it still requires you to get the message out there that you exist, but you've got to have all the other ancillary stuff to support your business. And one of my favourite things is going and talking to local businesses. Now, in my line of work, every business in Baldivis, Rockingham, Mandurah should be using my services, but they don't know I exist unless I go in and knock on the door and say, "Hi, my name's Gary. This is what I do." And in doing that, you can also start to set up a loyalty program. And this is one that's I've used very successfully in other countries, but it's very, very hard to get going here. I have a group of businesses that I use on a regular basis. So I say to those businesses, if you support me and I refer my clients to you and you give them a discount, then I'll keep referring clients to you. Similarly, if you refer to me, I will give your clients a discount. So it creates a loyalty program.
Well, that's going back to the boyish handshake.
Yep.
That's how business was done.
It was. And in
word of mouth and referral. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. You know exactly what you're getting.
Yep. And you can talk from a position of knowing because you use that service yourself.
Yes.
And that's where the second tier of that is the local business networking groups. So you've got in the Shire of Rockingham, you've got Real Business Solutions, which is run by a couple of businesswomen down there, and they hold regular functions. They've got lunches. They do sundowners. You go, you mingle. It costs you your drink or your food.
But you get to hand your business card out.
Yeah. Organisations like Real Logic and BNI, which are business networks.
Yes.
You go and you meet all the people there, and
But there is some cost involved.
There is, and it depends on how you look at the cost, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But there's a whole lot of them. Like you've got Apex Rotary, you've got Out of the Box, you've got Meetups, BNI, and so on. Any business has to have an allocation of funds for marketing. So you can go and spend $2,000 on doing a leaflet drop, which has got maybe a 0.01% success rate once, or you can spend that money and be a member of Real Logic or BNI for 12 months.
I'll have to admit, I must confess, I just literally take the stuff out of the letterbox and put it straight into the bin.
Yep.
It doesn't usually make it in the house.
Well, it's also interesting. I've tested this with a couple of my clients. One in particular was a financial planner, and he spent $2,500 doing a letterbox drop in the Baldivis area.
Those days have gone.
Yep. And I know I didn't get one.
Right.
Because I checked the mail.
That's even worse.
Yeah. And he found some of his flyers in places they shouldn't have been put, like rubbish bins.
Like rubbish bins, but not by the homeowner or the dweller there. No. Okay. Well, that's all has happened. We've heard horror stories of that where people have spent a fortune and things have ended up being pulped and burnt and not got to their destination. And
it's a very slap dab approach to it. So one of the things that I'm using at the moment with a particular client is he's written a particular introduction letter. He's targeting a very specific demographic. He mails that letter to them. So it's actual mail, not email. And then he phones them up. Did you receive my email or my letter? And he will get some good responses. He'll get some negative responses. But because it's a targeted approach, instead of costing him thousands, it's going to cost him $10 to $20.
Right.
And he's going to have a very targeted approach. The other thing we've now got to look at is when you get your business up and running and you've got clients, how do you keep them? Because as we know, loyalty is a thing of the past. It's changing dramatically and it's price-based to a large extent. But there are things that you can do as a business owner to ensure that your clients keep coming back. Number one on my list is newsletters. Once you have a client, you keep in touch with them on a regular basis, and it's anywhere from bi-monthly to monthly. In my case, I do it bi-monthly. And you put relevant information. You don't just put rubbish in there. You put, this is what the service we've got now, or if there's a new legislative ruling coming out, as there is in July in relation to occupational health and safety for all businesses, you put that information into those newsletters. So you make it of interest and relevance to your client. You do a value add. Now, value adding is not that difficult. So if you're a plumber, and I know that tap washers cost money, but if you're going in to do a big job, say putting in a new hot water system, it's going to cost the technician quarter of an hour to go and replace the tap washers. If you do that as a free service, the client thinks, hey, I got a really good value added, so I'm going to call you back. So value adding is important. Loyalty programs are important. And the one that I really, really do like is a referral incentive. So if you refer someone to me, I'm going to give you something in return. Well,
I've seen quite a few real estate agents now putting a price on the referral system, saying for a hot contact that ends up being a sale or whatever it is, they actually pay money. And I've seen anything from $500 to $2,000.
Yep. With a business that I was helping in Singapore, it was a weight loss company in Singapore. What they did was they set up a cash-based referral fee. So there was one particular lady was earning her monthly income from referring clients to the weight loss company.
Really?
And that was $3,000 or $4,000 Singapore a month, which is a lot of money for a lot of Singaporeans.
Yeah, it is.
And all she did was just said, go see these guys, give them my name, card, and that was it. Very successful for her. And the one thing that I really just want to finish off with today is the relationship between you and your client. There's an importance to make that relationship one of trust, not transaction. So often these days we see that businesses create a transactional-based relationship, and we know those companies, the bigger companies, you go in, you fill your basket with the shopping, you go to a machine, you scan your machine. There is no relationship with you or the organisation.
No.
If you can build a relationship with your clients, they will come back to you. It's like women and men with hairdressers. You have a very close personal relationship with that person.
And plus you can't cheat on your hairdresser.
No.
You can't go to someone else and then go back to them because they know.
They know. Yeah.
They know. It's all there. So you have to, unless you're very, very unhappy with your hairdresser, you don't go elsewhere.
No. So keeping that trust relationship together is also critical, and that means you sometimes have to do things that you wouldn't normally do. But the key is if you have a trusted relationship or a trusted client, then they are going to refer clients to you, and you are going to maintain a solid, strong business with those people. Yeah. And I think we've heard Keith talk about some of his clients he's had for 12 months or so. It's the same thing. There is a trust bond there, and they will continue to use his services as long as that bond is there, and they will continue to refer people because of that bond. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. How do people get in touch with you, Gary?
The simplest way is through my website, which is simply garyjacksonconsulting.com, and all the contact details are there.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week with some more mentoring matters on the Sattler Files. Back shortly with more.
This is Sattler